Stay where you are! Ow!
So everybody, in today's episode I'm going to be talking about two different things. Basically, we're going to be talking about pancake editing, which is a style of editing when you have a ton of footage that you have to kind of go through. And you're going to be using basically two different timelines, one for viewing clips and one for your actual edit. And this style of editing is called pancake editing. We'll demonstrate that. And this is really helpful in something where you have a ton of clips, like I mentioned. And one of those examples is usually action editing. When you're editing an action scene or a fight scene, it's very typical times when you have just a ton of footage and it's really difficult to keep going through clip by clip by clip into the source monitor. Pancake editing is the use of two different timelines to perform your edit. So since we are talking about action editing or fight editing, I want to quickly talk about some just common mistakes with making a scene of action or a fight scene not look so good. Common mistakes is usually most of these mistakes happen because there's not enough footage, or the scene wasn't shot properly, and you'll oftentimes have random cutaways. You'll have repetitive close-ups because if there's poor choreography, you cut to wide shots and it just doesn't look good. So that it's the repetition of lots of close-ups that make the fight scene not work too well. Oftentimes there's blurry footage because there's so much movement and the camera operators weren't all that experienced, or they didn't know how to work with depth of field, or they had too many close-ups, which ends up in blurry footage because there's a lot of movement. And oftentimes people will cut too quickly to get around that poor choreography or blurry footage or too many close-ups, and also loss of continuity, not paying attention to continuity from one shot to the next. We're going to go over some suggestions showing you how to avoid a lot of these mistakes. First of all, it does help that the footage was shot well and the choreography is good. So why did these mistakes happen? Like I mentioned, oftentimes you'll have a lack of footage that's shot for coverage, and sometimes it's a combination of the lack of footage shot and poor choreography. And sometimes poor choreography can be covered up if there's a lot of footage. You can oftentimes edit around the poor choreography and tighten things up and make it look pretty good for the most part. But it helps if these things, if you're the editor, it helps if these two things are done properly in the first place. But another big reason why these mistakes happen, and I'm going to put the blame on you guys, on everybody out there that's editing this, the editor. Lack of experience or effort in editing. And oftentimes the lack of experience isn't the big deal as much as the effort in editing. And what I mean by effort is, so one thing that you really need to do as an editor is, first of all, watch all of your footage and take notes if necessary. And I mean watch all the footage. As an editor, that is what you should do. You should look through all the footage, because oftentimes that the footage, if the end scene doesn't look good, can be the fault of the editor. Make sure that it's not your fault. Watch through all the footage and make sure that you know and you are familiar with all the footage. So if you get to a point where you're stuck, you can kind of remember or take notes on specific things, like this part might be helpful later on. That way, if you get stuck on a certain part, you can go back to your notes and look and see if there is a shot that might work in that instance. But being familiar with all the footage is incredibly important. One of the next recommendations I'm going to make is edit to a master shot. When you're editing a fight scene and the choreography has been done, if you have a master shot or a shot where you can see everything happening, usually you'll lay that shot down and then you'll edit to that master shot. You use that basically as a template on how to edit the scene. Even if the master shot doesn't look good, or it doesn't, or if the shots, or if the hits or the fighting looks fake, you're just going to use that as a template to add your close-ups and medium shots to. So when you lay a master shot down, then it's time to add all the close-ups and medium shots and match them to the master shot. One other technique that I'm going to recommend is using over the shoulder for the fake looking shots instead of the wider shots. Over the shoulder, oftentimes the lens, especially if it's a longer lens, higher focal length, then the shot will be compressed, the space will be kind of flattened, and the shots might look more realistic. One that I didn't mention here in the PowerPoint is also you should match on action, of course, as it cuts from one shot over the shoulder to the next shot over the shoulder. Matching on action is very helpful. And then when you're done putting in those medium shots and close-ups, you go back over the entire scene and clean up and fine-tune. And this is basically what we're going to be doing throughout this presentation. Some other quick techniques I'm going to mention here throughout this demonstration is types of experimenting. Speed ramping. I'm going to show some instances of speeding some shots up just slightly to add to the effectiveness of the fight. Dropping frames. Sometimes you can stutter your shot by removing a couple frames, for example, on a punch to the face or a kick in the stomach or something like that, and we will show an example of this as well. Punch in. Moving from wider shots to medium shots to close-ups when the action is happening. So you match on action essentially as you cut from a wide shot to a medium shot, or a medium shot to a close-up, or a wide shot to a close-up, and we'll show an example of this as well. So let's get started on editing the fight scene. First of all, I want to play the fight scene here and show you kind of the end result, and then we'll come back and talk about how this scene was pulled together.
That's all I have! Bullshit. Leave it! Just take it all! That's all I got! Take it! I don't care! Andy! Sam, help me! Let her go!
Stay where you are! Ow! Bitch!
Okay, so first of all in that scene, I've got all the footage here, and I've got these actually divided up into segments. I'd say if this fight scene is kind of long, it would be a good idea to divide your scene up into segment folders, basically. So first of all, I'm going to create a timeline here. I'm going to grab one of these clips and drag it into my timeline, drop it, delete the clip out of there, and I've created a timeline. Here's my timeline. I'm going to grab that, drag it to the left out of that folder, drop it, and there we go. I'm going to call this one Segment 1. Now this is not going to be my final edit. This is just where the footage is going to rest. So I'm actually going to duplicate this timeline and call this one my final edit. So I've got two timelines here. By the end I'll actually have a timeline for each segment, and I'll have my final edit timeline as well. So I'm going to open up this one, and I've got two different timelines here. I'm going to go to my Segment 1, open up my Segment 1 folder, grab all the footage. You don't have to divide into segments. I'm just doing this to make this a bit more organized and easy. I'm going to select all my clips out of my Segment 1 folder, drag it into this timeline, drop it, and I've got all my footage here dropped into one timeline. All of my clips from this first segment, the first kind of basically one-fourth of the fight scene here. Now that I've got all those clips put into one timeline here, this is the part where I'm going to start doing what's called pancaking. Now normally the way you would edit is you would find a clip that you want, double click on it, put an in point, put an out point, I and O, and then you would drop that into your final edit, into your final timeline. We're going to be doing things a little bit different here. So I'm going to grab this segment timeline, I'm going to grab it and start dragging it. Now if you move this around here, if you move it in the middle and drop it in this middle blue square, in the square rectangle in the middle, it basically just repositions it side by side like this. So that really doesn't do anything. I'm going to grab this, and you'll notice these little shapes on the side here. This is going to position a timeline either on the side-by-side timeline, and it's going to have them open simultaneously with other timelines. But I'm going to put this on top right here. And that basically stacks it. That puts our Segment 1 on top and our final edit on the bottom. This is part of setting up your project to do what's called pancaking. I'm going to make a little bit more timeline room here. And if you have a larger monitor or even dual monitors, this becomes a lot easier. It doesn't become so cramped. So now I'm going to play through my clip here. Let's choose a little bit of a clip. Let's show you how to do pancake editing now. So first of all, let me play through this here.
Let her go!
Okay, so I'm going to put an in point up here. And first of all, to make this work, you got to make sure that nothing is selected in this timeline. You got to make sure if a clip is selected and you're going to do the copy and paste, which I'm going to be doing, it will default to the selected clip as opposed to your in point and out point. So you have to make sure nothing is selected. The way you deselect everything in a timeline is either clicking away from it, or Control or Command. If you're on a Mac, Command Shift A will deselect everything. Command A or Control A selects everything. Command Shift A deselects everything. So just make sure that you've deselected everything before you start. So now let's say I want my clip to start where this lady walks in right here. So as she walks in, I'm going to put an in point on my timeline. I put I for endpoint. I play through this. Endpoint, sorry, I'm changing that.
Eddie! Sam, help me! Let her go!
And say I want to go right there. I'm going to put out point. I want that portion of the clip here. And now I'm going to do Command C and copy. You can change timelines by either clicking down here or hitting Shift 3 will alter timelines. If you have multiple timelines open, it'll toggle between all three of them. So I suggest just have two open for this time being. And now Command V will paste that clip into the timeline down here, and I have the edited clip. And what this does basically is you're copying clips from up here and pasting them down here. And the reason why that is helpful over the source monitor is you have all your footage accessible right up here in this timeline. So if you're looking for a specific clip in a sea of clips, you can basically grab your scrubber and quickly shuttle through here, or use your JKL keys to fast forward, hit L a bunch of times to fast forward here, and you can quickly skim through footage without having to double click, and open clip by clip by clip. And then you can look through, if you're looking for a certain clip, you can just grab your playhead, quickly skim through it and say, I'm looking for that bat on the ground. There it is right there. There's the bat on the ground footage. And I was able to quickly find that. So that's the benefit of pancaking. It's kind of an ingenious little method that actually I saw from Adobe years ago at NAB that they showed. So now I'm going to clear my in and out point out of my timeline here. The way you do that, on a PC, it will be Control Shift X. On a Mac, it's just Option X. So Option X clears your in and out points. On a PC, it will be Control Shift X. Now, something we're going to be doing here as well, I want to kind of teach another little technique as far as editing and adding clips on top of your video 2 line here without the audio. We're going to show you some reasons why we're going to do this in the fight scene, but right now I want to show you how to take a clip and edit and just put some video on top of this, because that will cut to that video and then cut back to the main clip here. So what I'm going to do is find a shot here. This isn't going to necessarily match, but I'm just finding a shot right now just to demonstrate this, and we'll show some practical purposes for this coming up here. But I'm going to put an endpoint right there. And first of all, I don't want to choose the audio here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, let's do an endpoint, play through this, and an out point. That's the portion that I want. But I don't want to bring the audio, I just want to bring the video. If you don't want to bring the audio, all you have to do is go over to this toggle track targeting and turn it off. And notice it is no longer selected. Now it was just going to copy here, and if there's anything down here. And there's not anything down here, so it's just going to copy the video. Command C to copy, Shift 3 to change timelines, and I'm going to get my playhead exactly where I want that to paste. Say I want to paste it on top right here, and we're just doing video, not audio, because I unchecked this here. All you have to do is turn off your V1 track, turn on your V2 track, and paste. Command V or Control V. And paste it right on top there. Let's shorten this a little bit, trim it. So now what you'll see happens is it will cut to this one, and then cut away. And that doesn't really match anything, but I just want to make sure that you're familiar with that technique. Copying and pasting from your segment one, or from your top timeline to your bottom timeline. Okay, I'm going to clear this out, and let's start editing this fight scene. I'm going to click up here, Option X to clear my in and out points. Slash above the return key to show your entire timeline. By the way, a couple quick shortcuts. If you do plus and minus, it zooms in and zooms out. And the backslash above your return or enter key will show your entire timeline. We'll show all the clips in the entire timeline. I'm going to set these back up here, activate those tracks, and let's start editing the fight scene. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, since I've got, there's a bit of dialogue that happens at the beginning, so I'm going to quickly kind of edit through the dialogue, and then we're going to get to the fight scene here. So, okay, so I've edited the first part of the dialogue here. I'm going to play a little bit of that here so you can hear it.
Just take it all.
This is bullshit.
That's all I got.
All the
Take
food you
it.
have.
Eddie, Sam, help me. Let her go.
Stay right there. Ah, bitch.
Okay, so that's kind of a little rough edit there of the dialogue at the beginning, but now we're going to be getting into the fighting. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about match cutting. So this is my first segment up here that has all the video. I hit slash above the return key, backslash, and it shows my entire timeline here. And down here in my final edit, I've been doing the pancake editing and putting clips from the segment 1 folder, from the segment 1 timeline down into my final edit timeline. And that's what I've ended up with so far. So now I need to edit from this part right here where he swings the bat, because this is obviously kind of he was swinging very high with this bat here to kind of, so we wouldn't hit anybody obviously. So I'm going to try to edit that and make it look a little bit more realistic.
Ow.
I'm going to go up into my top timeline and find a clip that will that I'll be able to match cut to. And right there, that's from the low angle. That kind of compresses the shot, makes it look a little bit better there. So I'm going to rewind and get it to a point where we match cut. I'm going to get it right there before it hits the wall. I'm going to put an endpoint on this timeline. play, and out point. Right there is the shot. So I've got this little portion right there. I'm going to do Command C and copy, Shift 3 to go down to my bottom timeline, hit End to go to the end of my timeline, and Command V to paste it, or Control V on a PC to paste it. And now what we have so far is, as I arrow through this, let's play through this. So he hits twice there, so I need to ripple edit this a little bit. I'm going to arrow down, land on the edit, hit my T for trim tool. It'll bring up the trim window. I'm going to move over my trim window here and use the tilde key and go full screen. I'm going to ripple edit the clip to the left here. So I move this over. This is a roll edit affecting both clips. So I'm going to move it over till this yellow arrow points toward this clip. I'm going to grab it and just trim it back until the bat looks about to be in the same place, about right there. I'm going to let go, hit tilde, and let's play through that and see how it looks. And that looks pretty good there. I'm actually going to roll edit it just a little bit. I'm going to hit T, and let's test the roll edit. Tilde over this window. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to bring it back just a couple frames right before he hits the wall. Let's try that and see if that looks any better. See, we want to see him swing a little bit more. So I'm going to trim this forward, right where he swings, and do it right when he's connecting the wall, right there. Let's give that a try. See, a lot of this is experimentation to see what will work better. Let's play through this. And that looks pretty good there. Now let's cut to the wide shot of the other girl coming toward her. And this is where we're going to get into the fight scene here, to where the fight scene officially starts.
Shit, I don't care. Andy! Sam, help me! Let her go!
Stay right there. Ow!
So I'm going to match cut this from him raising the bat here to him raising the bat down in the final timeline. So I'm going to do an endpoint. And this I'm going to use as a master shot. We did not have a master shot for this particular segment right here, but still I'm able to see the action of both characters moving throughout this. Let's play through this. And take it up to that point right there. So I'm going to consider that a master shot right there. I know it's not a wide shot or a two shot where you see both people, or a full shot where you see them both in the frame from head to toe, but this is good enough because I'm seeing the action that is taking place quite easily. So it looks a bit fake, but that's fine. We're going to make this look more realistic as we cut to medium shots and close-ups. But right now, that first rule that I mentioned was edit to a master shot, and I'm going to use this as my master shot. So I'm going to hit Command C and copy that in and out point, Shift 3 to go down to my next timeline. Go to the end here and Command V and paste that in. And now let's match this between let's do the transition where we match between these two shots here. So I'm going to trim this. I'm going to hit T to trim this window. I'm on the edit there. I'm going to tilde over this. You don't have to tilde over. I like doing the tilde to make it go full screen so I can really see what I'm doing. But I need to get this. I need to ripple this so it matches this shot with the bat in the air. So I'm going to grab this one, move it over. Right about there, looks like it's a match. Gonna let go, hit tilde, and the edit's been done. Let's see how that works. And that works pretty well. So now we're going to try to make this bat swing look a little bit better. So first of all, as I mentioned, I'm going to edit to this master shot. And what we're going to do, we're going to use the sound from the master shot, if it's good, which it is. And we're just going to grab visuals up here in the segment timeline of medium shots and close-ups to paste down into this timeline. So let's just get video, just the visual and not the sound. So I'm going to hit my backslash key. I'm going to quickly skim through this up here. This is where pancaking really comes in handy, because now I can quickly skim through all the shots, all the footage, and find the shot that I need. I'm going to find a reverse angle here of him swinging the bat. And here's the reverse angle right here. So, see, showing the whole timeline, I skimmed through all this and found the shot pretty quickly. So now I'm going to get up to the point where he swings. And that looks pretty good there. It looks like he is swinging a little bit high, but we're going to try to edit. We're going to try to match edit this here. So when he's swinging, it looks like he's trying to swing at her, and she ducks. In point. Let's see if there's another one. That one doesn't look so good. Out point. And right now, I'm going to select just the video right there. I deselected this audio, and I'm going to do Command C and copy. I'm going to hit Shift 3, go down to my timeline, and try to frame that up right where you start swinging, right there. And I'm going to disable this video one track and paste it on top up here. So I can kind of slide it around and make sure it's matched. Command V and paste. Let's take a look. Now pasted just the video on there. Let's take a look. And I'm going to actually Option, arrow down, move that on. That looks pretty close there, so I'm going to Option and arrow down, moved it down onto the main timeline here so I can trim it. I'm going to hit my V1 here, arrow down, hit T to trim, move up here and tilde over it, and let's roll edit this and see where we want the edit to happen. I'm going to get it right where she starts ducking right there, and then we'll cut to this shot there. So I moved that forward 3 frames. Let's see what that looks like. And I probably need to ripple edit this right frame just a little bit. Hit tilde, hit T. I hit T to bring up open the trim window, tilde to go full screen, and I'm going to arrow this back just another frame here so you still see the bat. Right about there. Let's give that a try and see how that looks. And that looks pretty good there. So it swings. And then she swings the knife. So there we cut back, and she swings the knife at his stomach. He jumps back. So that looks pretty good there. Let's see if there's another shot, kind of a close-up of her stabbing the knife toward him, where he jumps back. And right there I see, so you skim through the footage, and I found one where she kind of swings that knife at him, and he jumps back. So we know that that knife doesn't hit him there. Right there, you can actually see the knife. So I'm gonna cut this in right where the knife is kind of at its pinnacle right there. We're gonna back time this in a minute. And out point just a few frames. And copy is just copying the video. Shift 3 to go down to the timeline to find the exact same point where the knife is kind of at its pinnacle here. Right there. Turn off the bottom video track, paste that in. And that looks like it matches pretty good. So I'm going to drop that down onto my timeline. Option, arrow down. You could paste it on here, but I like pasting it up above just in case you need to slide it back and forth a frame or two. So now I put it on there, select the video track, land on the edit, hit T for trim, and decide where I want the edit to happen now. And we're going to arrow this back, and we're going to cut from this shot to here, right when she swings. Let's see how that looks here. And I need a little bit more. I cut this a little short, so I'm going to roll edit that back. So I'm going to roll edit this back. So I'm going to arrow down, land on that, hit T for trim, go up here and just roll back that back just a little bit. About like 3-4 frames. Right there, that was -6 frames. So let's see how that works. She swings at him, and I like that. So we got the little knife whoosh, we got some quick editing going. So this is what we have so far. And the sound is going to need to be mixed a little bit there, but that's basically editing the visuals together. Everything pretty much flows here. Let's get the point where she cuts his hands here. Here's a good shot. In point. Right there she cuts his hands. Out point. And select audio as well, because that's some pretty good audio there of him yelling. Arrow back. Go right after she steps, and Command V and paste. So now we have the zip on the bat. Slice his hands. And right there she slices his hands with a knife, so he grabs her, and work it out nice here. So let's watch what we have so far.
That's all I got! Take it! Randy! Sam, help me! Let her go!
Stay right there. Ah, bitch!
Could use some tightening up a little bit, but that's looking pretty good from right there. So that's pretty much it. So now from the rest of this, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to choose another master shot. I'm going to grab close-ups and medium shots and paste them over the top, and then eventually move them back down to the timeline and trim them as needs be. And then when you're done, you basically go back and you fine-tune it and do some trimming. If it seems like it's a little too short or a little too long, then you can cut it shorter or longer as needed. I want to show a little bit of experimentation with this as well now. So. Okay, I've got another little portion of the fight scene that I've edited here. I'm going to kind of go full screen and show you this here. Where she kicks, slices his shirt, and kicks him again, and kicks him back. So I want to kind of make this look a little bit more powerful here, I guess. And I'm going to experiment with this a little bit, and this is where I mentioned a couple different things. One thing is speed ramping, one thing is dropping a couple of frames as well. I'm going to try each one of those and see how this works here. So let's start off with speed ramping first. So speed ramp here, what we're going to do is we're going to speed this up just a little bit. This is kind of a little technique is used in fight scenes oftentimes to make things look a little faster or more powerful here. We're going to try this, I should say more faster than powerful. It's almost like the drop frames is a way to make it look more powerful. The speed ramp is a way to make it look a little faster. Like she's kicking faster. So I'm going to get this to the point where her foot's about ready to push out right about there. And I'm going to go over to this little effects tab. Well, first of all, if you're not seeing this, what I did is I hit Shift plus. Shift plus will bring up the track height on the video and the audio here at the same time. And once that's brought up here, I will see this little effect box right there. You can actually right click on that. And right now it's turned on to opacity, but I'm going to go down to time remapping and turn my line, this little line here, to time remapping instead of opacity. So now this represents time remapping. And I'm going to change my pen tool. Go up and hit my pen tool, or you can hit P on the toolbar right there, or just hit P. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to add a keyframe right there where the foot is lifting. Right there. Clicked right onto it. And I'm going to arrow down a little bit. And right after she kicks, right there is where I want to speed up this portion between here and here. So I'm going to add another keyframe. Click right there. So I've got 2 keyframes in between. Hit V for my arrow tool. V is in Victor. Or just go up and select your arrow tool. And I'm going to grab this little line in between here. Just move this around until I get that little double arrow right there. I'm going to grab that portion in between and lift it up. And we're going to move it to about 150, maybe 130%. Let's try 140 right there. So about 140%. So now this portion right here, from here to here, goes at 140%. This is normal, this is 140, and this is normal. Let's give it a try. And see how quick that goes? Right where she kicks, watch this. See how she kicks and it just looks like this big, brutal, just swift kick. So that is one way, and that seemed to work pretty well. I'd probably bring the percentage down just a little bit. I think it's a little too fast. Let's bring that down to, let's try 130%. Let's play through this. And that looks a little bit more realistic. Doesn't look so overcranked there, so looks pretty good. So that works pretty well. Let's see what happens when we actually drop a couple frames. I'm going to undo and bring that back to normal there. Right click here and turn this back to opacity. Okay, so now what we're going to try is we're going to try to just drop a couple frames and see what the difference is, see kind of the subtle difference here. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove about 2 frames from right here where she goes to kick. Right about here. I'm going to cut. I'm going to arrow down twice. Let's go 3 times and cut right there. Right here, I'm going to hit Q, which will cut these 3 frames to the left here. Q, and let's see what that looks like. So I removed 3 frames out of the middle there. Let's see if it gives a little quick stutter here, makes it look more powerful. That doesn't look quite good, so I'm going to actually just go down to move this down. I'm holding Option. I selected the Edit. I'm going to select the Edit here. Just click. I'm with my roll edit. I'm going to hit N for roll edit. Click on the edit. Hold down Option and arrow right twice. Move that roll edit over. Now arrow over 1 time. So I've got 2 frames there. And now I'm going to hit Q. And let's see the way that looks. That's still a little too much. Let's try just 1 frame here. Let's see what that looks like. And actually that looks kind of cool. So I'm going to go to and actually I'm going to remove 1 off of the left frame here as well. Hit W, so it clears that 1 frame off to the right. And let's see what that looks like. A little too much. So it looks like it was good actually with just 1 frame being dropped there. And look how that just does that quick stutter. And looks like it's a big, powerful kick. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make all 3 versions here so you can kind of see the difference between each one. Okay, so I've got all 3 versions here. First of all, with no effect added to it. Then the second one is with time remapping. And the third one is with a frame being removed. So let's play through all 3 of these. I'm going to tilde over this and look at it full screen. So there's the first one. Looks kind of normal. Looks pretty good. Let's look at the time remapping. You see that speed up there? Actually, let's make it a little more extreme just to kind of mess with it. Let's go to about 140. Let's play through that now. And that looks pretty good. That looks a bit faster. So kind of cool. Let's go to the next one. Play that. And this is the actual drop frame. We dropped, I think, 1 or 2 frames out of it. And you can see that quick little snap there. So that's kind of cool. So to kind of refresh everything here, I'm going to close my segment folder there. So what we've shown you today is we've shown you how to Pancake, how to pull clips off of the top timeline, pull it down to the bottom timeline, how to copy and paste. The recommendation that we've given you for editing a fight scene is edit to a master shot. Lay your master shot down and do close-ups and medium shots on top. And then once you get them matched up, you can move them down onto your timeline for trimming. Then you'll go through and you'll trim everything. You'll go through and do kind of a pass on everything and make sure that everything, all the timing works, that everything looks good, that nothing looks too fast or too slow, and do some fine-tuning on the editing. And then some other techniques we showed you was experimenting with speed ramping, with removing frames, and match cutting as well. But now what I want to do is I want to show this would actually be a sound mixer's job to do, but I want to kind of show you the difference between the fight, the visual fight, and showing the fight with audio involved. So what I'm going to do here is on this little portion here is I'm going to edit some sound here. I have some pre-built sound effects I want to bring in and just kind of mess with this here. So I've brought in some sound effects that I've already gathered together here. I'm going to option double click on it, and I'm going to go into my timeline here. And like I said, usually a sound mixer, this is a sound mixer's job. And oftentimes a sound mixer will do this in something like Pro Tools or some other professional audio mixing program. Premiere is a decent audio mixing program, but it is primarily a visual cutter. But it does also some sound mixing. But I just want to experiment with the audio here and show you kind of the difference between the visual fight and I guess they would call the oral fight. The oral fight being basically what you're hearing and what that brings to the effectiveness of the shot. So here, let's see where she kicks him in the chest here. I'm going to go down. I've got a sound effect. It's got a kick with whoosh. Let's hear these ones here. That's a big crunchy noise. So I'm going to put an out point here and grab my in and out point. And I'm going to drop this down. I'm going to source patch my second channel of audio. So it's going to send this audio channel down onto this channel here. I'm going to hit period and drop that on. But now we have to time this up here. So I'm going to plus, plus, plus. And I'm going to arrow through this and see there's a sound effect. It's not really matching up. So I'm going to get it right where she puts his knee. Right there is where it hits the chest. I'm going to select my sound effect. And I'm going to hold Command, arrow, right, arrow, right, arrow, right. And on a PC, I'm trying to remember, it's either Control, arrow, left or right, or Option, arrow, left or right to shift it on the timeline. So I'm going to get that right where it hits his chest. That's too loud. Going to turn it down a little bit. Because you shouldn't be hitting 0. You should be hitting under 0. There we go. Let's take a look at that. And that looks pretty good. But right now I like to put those sound effects in, even if somebody else is doing the sound mix, just to see what it's going to sound like, or just what it looks like with the sound effect added to it. And right here, I want the knife slicing. And I've got a little sound of a sword cutting some cloth here. In point, out point. I'm going to drop that inside. Period. And I'm also going to grab, it's got a knife cutting. Just grab that little knife noise right there. In point, out point. Actually, this I'm going to drop down on my timeline as well. And I'm going to grab I'm going to grab a whoosh noise as well. Got a little stabby noise there. Put that in. See, and these are all, I'm going to stack all these here in a second. So, right there. Okay. So down here in my timeline, I have a whoosh. I have some stabby noises. I have a knife noise. And I'm going to stack these. I'm going to stack these all here. Select this one. Option, arrow down. Shift plus. Move that one over. Cut this down a bit. Right there, get them all kind of in the same area. Yeah, option, arrow down, shift plus. Move that over there. And let's get all these timed out here. So I'm going to solo one track here. I'm going to solo my track 2 and see if this times out here. Right there, I need to zoom up on it. I'm going to hold down Command or Option on a PC or Alt on a PC and arrow this over to the right and get that timed up. Right there, got the cloth ripping. Turn that down just a bit because I'm going to have, there we go. Now I'm going to solo the next track. And that whoosh needs to go a little bit earlier, right there. A little bit earlier, 1 frame. So we got the whoosh and the cutting the clothing. And the next thing is soloing my little stabby noise. Arrow right, right there. Right there, the stabby noise. And the last, I'm going to solo the little knife noise. And I'm going to turn that way down here. So kind of, let's listen to all those together, see how they sound. That sounds pretty good. I'm going to roll out her audio over a little bit so it doesn't repeat the same noise twice. And the last is the kick. So I'm going to grab a whoosh with a kick here. That sounds good. Very big and loud. And period to drop that in. And I'm also going to grab a bone crunch here. Right there. Drop that inside, hit period. Shrink that down there. Option arrow down. I'm going to move that over and match it up with the kick here. Let me get the kick over. So I'm going to get that kick right where it first hits the chest, right there. And I'm going to get, and that's the beginning of the kick right there. This is the whoosh leading up to it, and there's the kick. I'm going to hold down Command or Alt and arrow this over, Alt on a PC. And there we go. And I'm going to move this one over a teeny bit to get that bone crunch right where she kicks. So let me grab that. There's 2 kind of crunches there. Let me grab just the second one, trim that back, and put it right there. Turn this one down. Turn this one down way loud, and you want your audio mixed less than 0 for those big loud noises. There we go. Okay, so let's look through the scene now. Tilde over the program window, play. And all I really need is his body falling and hitting on the ground noise there. But it's kind of nice to add those sound effects in just to see how it's going to sound when the sound mixer does it and see if the sound is going to be effective. So that is pretty much the tutorial on doing pancaking and on doing a fight scene, doing an action scene, some of the techniques involved in doing such a thing. So if you have any questions, please post them and I will try to get back with you. Thank you.